Welcome back. You're still on to the Polity, and this afternoon we're talking about the poor performance of our national budgets, which has become like traditional, has become like our history. I mean, almost all the time we're hardly able to hit target, we're hardly able to make the 100% or something close. And that's why we intend to take a look at this and see what we need to do to prevent this from being a constant experience. If Dr. Aliyu Ilias is still there, would like you to weigh in on this.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. As we know, generally we have a challenge mentioned, but there's lots of factors, reasons why we have poor performance of our budget. Like we normally say, we actually see from perception of delay in presentation, like this year on. I think Buhari government was able to actually reduce that level, but now we have go back to that level whereby we failed to do January, December budget. Now our budget has moved from December now to January, which is a serious problem to ask me because it's going to affect our implementation. Then another thing is that we have revenue shortfall. The way we say revenue shortfall, that simply means that most time we go ahead with deficit budget, even though that's not a bad. But then another problem will also be a problem of corruption. Corruption is another factor that we have to look at that is affecting implementation. Then you can also see approve the process of assessing the budget, the process of being able to assess the budget may be moving close to the middle of the year. That's a serious problem. We also have politics of what we call politics of accommodation. Because you're a politician, you can easily go to
Doctor. All right. I guess we got caught up again with the network challenge. And so I like to make this offer to you that right from the beginning like this, you can...
responsibility.
All right,
One of the
he's back.
responsibilities is what's called a one-time function. Yeah.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's good now. Go on, Doctor.
Right. There another problem we see is a problem of data. We do not have accurate data most times to actually plan our budget. You can see what happens to JAM registrar who actually presents a budget to proposal to National Assembly. And according to him, what Adam Oshamane was reaching out was not what he actually presented. So where is that gap coming in? That means we still have problem of analysis from National Assembly and data, understanding of data. So I think that's it. And that is problem of collaboration. You could see that I think the federal government, the National Assembly is forcing the MDA to come and defend their budget, which is not supposed to be so. It's supposed to become naturally, just like what Professor Isha Koloide said, that anytime they want to, it's available to defend the budget. So these are the problem we see that we need to actually solve among other problems.
Now, just before you came to these last 2 points, you were talking about a problem of political accommodation, and then the network went off. We didn't get you from that point. It would be nice to have your explanation of that.
Right. When I say political accommodation, it simply means that every politician wants his own area, his own focus to be considered in the budget. So, and that's what some of people call it padding.
Okay.
Like you see that maybe the Senate president will have an interest, I will say our ordinary or an inflation agent will say, please can you put a particular rule into the budget? Can you put a particular factor, a particular thing into the budget? So it's budget of political accommodation, whereby politicians find their way to influence the budget and they do projects that are very dear to them.
Okay, but that comes in before the budget is passed. So it should, and once it is approved, that shouldn't be a problem in its implementation. Or what do you think?
Right. It will not affect the implementation, but it will affect the outcome of that budget. Because if budget has issue right from the way when it is designed, it's going to have issue in terms of the implementation. And that's what I'm trying to say. But in terms of implementation, I think we have a delay in budget, in release of budget is one of the problem of the implementation, and poor oversight function from the National Assembly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm talking about poor oversight function of National Assembly, because they are supposed to actually monitor the budget to actually work. But new minister, new monitoring team that president is having, led by the
Hadiza Bala Usman,
to really score the national, I mean the budget and MDAs, how well it is implemented.
All right. So what should we be doing differently if we want different results?
Right. Basically, the first thing to do is to monitor the implementation, and like anytime you want to come and submit another proposal, you must give us a scorecard of how well you have implemented the budget you have gotten. And after that, we must also track. I think some NGO are doing it, whereby you track everybody. Because the last one we tracked was the education part, which has to do with UBEC. That those funds that are given to them, are they actually using it to implement the budget? I think that's the major thing. There should be tracking of each budget, either by the federal government or by the.
So that talks about citizen participation. The citizens must either get themselves together as civil service, civil CSOs to tackle this matter because it affects them, and so they must take their destiny in their hands, as it were.
What the problem of the implementation generally is that most of those things are delayed. So when they delay it, there will not be focused on those budgets. So if we have a whereby every minister, every MDA, make sure that they deliver the budget as already. Then another thing I think we should do, there should be a project timeline to every budget. So if you say you are going to do ABC, in your proposal submission, you should also tell us the timeline at which you are going to do. So if you say you are going to do something in March, April, May, and we saw that we are not doing it in March, April, May, Nigerian government or NGOs can actually call you to order or ask questions about the implementation of such budget.
All right. First 2 points you made were the fact that the submission of the budget comes late in the year, and the second one was that we have revenue shortfalls. Now that means that as long, particularly on the revenue shortfalls, that means as long as we have the incidence of revenue shortfalls, we will continually experience this kind of delays, right?
Right. When we say revenue shortfall, it is not a bad thing to have deficit budget.
Yeah.
Because of, but we need to do more in terms of our revenue. Because if you don't have much revenue, like for me, if you ask me, this 2025 budget is very, very small. Because you cannot even compare it to last year. So in terms of value, last year budget have more value than 2025 proposed budget. Though I'm convinced that National Assembly are going to chap up the budget beyond 50 trillion. But what I'm trying to say is that in terms of value, last year budget have value than this year. Why this year have much more a higher number in terms of
Yeah,
number
yeah. When
than
you put
last
the
year.
naira
And for
against
me,
the
I'm a
dollar.
proponent. Exactly, when you compare naira against the dollar. But for me, I'm a proponent of the bigger budget because if you look at our country, we are doing small budget compared to South Africa, compared to Egypt, even compared to Brazil that we start together. So I think we should do more because if you cannot implement more bigger budget, you can definitely not have a project accomplished. So like now, a good example is that we agree that the shortfall in housing is about 6 trillion naira to balance it. Why not actually?
Wow. Well, Doctor, we lost you briefly. I hope that you're still there, and I hope that the network will be more cooperative. If you can hear me, I want to ask, is it not lawyers who say that you cannot put something on top of nothing? So when you talk about a bigger budget, it has to be, I mean, a budget is a statement of revenues and expenditures. So if you don't have the accompanying revenue or expected revenue, anticipated revenue, how would you then go for bigger budgets? When already we are contending with the issue of deficit budgeting already, if you can hear me. All right, Doctor, I guess, I don't know, I guess we would need to see if we can reconnect, but at this point, we're not together, as it were. Yeah. So, dear viewers, that's the issue this afternoon. We do not have the requisite environment, the enabling environment for our budgets to really perform from what the doctor has said. One of the factors, the first factor he talked about, is the fact that we delay in the preparation and submission of our budgets. For example, the 2025 budget just went to the National Assembly about the second week of December. And this is ordinarily a budget that should start running, the implementation I'm talking about, should start running from January. So definitely we're still going to experience a delay in the implementation of the 2025 budget. Meanwhile, we are already suffering from the delay in the implementation of the 2024 budget. So that's one point that the doctor has highlighted that needs to be tackled. And I do not think that this is rocket science. I believe that this is doable, especially seeing that even in the predecessor government of President Buhari, we saw at least a number of years when the budget was presented about like 3 months to the end of the year, like around October. And so, of course, if you do October, there's every likelihood that all the back and forth, all the MDAs coming to defend their figures and all that, it's possible that you can accommodate all that before the end of the current year, which then makes it possible for the implementation of the proposals to start in earnest from the first month of the new year. And we have not seen this play out under this current regime, and that's an area that they'll need to really sit up and buckle up, if you like. And the doctor also talked about the factor of shortfalls in revenue. So that is a huge one. I don't know whether the doctor is still connected. Maybe we can go to him for this particular one. Doctor, are you still there? All right. So let me extend this invitation to you, dear viewer. The phone line is open, 08029938365. And let's take this up and talk about it. What should we be doing to prevent this incessant, this continual delay in shortfall in the performance of our budgets. What should we be doing? Having listed a number of factors, talking about Dr. Aliyu, Ilias, my guest, he has listed a number of factors responsible for this. He has talked about politics. He has talked about the fact that there are delays in submission, there is shortfall in revenue, and so many other points that he made. So what should we be doing? Dear viewer, let's have your perspective on this very, all important topic, because the budget affects every single Nigerian. The budget affects how we live. The budget, he was talking about a shortfall in the housing needs of Nigerians. If I remember some years back, you were talking about 20 million housing deficit. So if you have 20 million housing deficit, then that's huge. So, but how do we tackle this when the budget for housing development is delayed? How do we tackle this when revenues do not come as at when needed? How do we tackle this when our revenue generation capacity is low? So these are some of the issues, and I'd like you to join me even via phone right now as we get your perspective on 08029938365, so that we can together chart a way forward and ensure that this does not become a permanent story. I'm sure that this can be achieved if we set our minds to it, because we're Nigerians and we got a can-do spirit. When we decide to, we are able to. So let's hear your contribution. 08029938365 is the number. Even the National Assembly was so miffed at the performance of the 2024 budget. About a week or two ago, it raised what I would call an alarm, saying that 25% performance of the capital budget is totally unacceptable. Well, they have a part to play, even like the doctor said. For example, if they take up their oversight functions more seriously, there is every likelihood that some of these lapses would be taken care of. Because like the doctor was saying, if you put a timeline to the projects and say, okay, by so time, we should have this road in place. By so and so time, we should have the bulbs in place in so office. By so and so time, so laptops should be delivered. And then, because the Constitution empowers the National Assembly to do oversight, if they really would take up this role and do it effectively, it will go a long way in ensuring that the budget becomes more robustly implemented. That's the feeling out there, and that's what the doctor tried to allude to. And so let's get your contribution on this matter. Now, so if the oversight function of the National Assembly is that important, is there a reason why it's not being carried out with the drive that one would expect? Are there disincentives? Are there hurdles in their paths? Are there reasons why militating against their performance of that particular function? So these are some of the things we need to begin to look at as a nation, so as to ensure that the right thing is done at the appropriate time. You know, like somebody said, it is what is inspected that people do. It is not what is expected. I don't think I am quoting very perfectly right now, but it says people will not do what they are expected to do, but they will do only what they are inspected to do. So inspection, oversight, enforcement are very key if we really intend to make the kind of progress that this country sorely, truly needs at a time like this. So these are the issues. Can we submit our budgets in September, for example? And I do not think that there's anything so difficult about that. Government has all the resources. Government has all the personnel to be able to get that done. That shouldn't be an issue at all. And then, can we get the matching revenues? Can we get the kind of revenues? And when you talk about revenues, of course, that's the kind of thing that the government is trying to do, I believe, through the tax bill reforms that's been put in place, that's been proposed by the executive. Now, so maybe with that, a whole lot of revenues will be brought into the purse to be able to implement some of the provisions of the budget. In actual fact, the doctor was saying that as far as is concerned, our budgets are too small. And he made a very solid point saying that in terms of value, this year's budget, even though the numbers are bigger, is a lot lower, is a lot less in value compared to last year's budget. And I agree with him, because if you were exchanging the naira for 1 naira for about maybe $1,000 naira for $1, and then it has gone up to about 1.7, that is 1,700 naira per dollar. I mean, that's a huge gap. Clearly, that's a huge gap. What it means is that what 1,000 naira used to be able to purchase, you need 1,700 of it to purchase now. So clearly, I understand, and I believe Nigerians understand that point. So there's a whole lot that we need to do. For example, if you would shore up the value of a naira, we must be talking about increased local production and manufacturing, because that's the only way by which we can increase our earnings in terms of forex, and that's the only way when we begin to earn much more in terms of foreign exchange, then our rate of exchange will get reasonable and better with time. So that is very crucial. The number remains 08029938365, and I'll go on a short break. And when I'm back, I expect that we do this together.
In the beginning, God created a beautiful world.
3, 2, 1. Action.
And that's why, at KAFTAN Television,
we imagine a beautiful world.
We are not just bragging.
We blaze the trail in broadcasting. And it is about you.
At KAFTANTV, broadcasting is not just about information, education, and entertainment.
it's an aggregation of all you need to know in Nigeria
and around the world to create signal.
At KAFTAN Television, we have all it takes to be on top in broadcasting.
Our mission is simple: to project Africa in a truthful yet positive manner.
Wait, we're coming to you in style.
Here we are, starting from September.
Look at what the facts are.
And as you say on KAFTAN TV, imagine a beautiful world.
While wrapping up the day, unwind with the reminiscence of the day's news from home and abroad with KAFTANTV 7 p.m. news.
Good to have you join us on KAFTAN News at 7.
Nigerians are living in abject 5%. Our young people repurpose the Harmony Symphony.
It's good to have you join us on KAFTANTV News at 7.
We found that the $10 tax is not actually sufficient.
National, foreign news headlines. Get balanced, accurate facts on the latest news in business, politics, entertainment, sports, and more. Live from our studios.
Many thanks for watching. Join us again at 9 p.m.
KAFTANTV News. While wrapping up the day, unwind with the reminiscence of the day's news from home and abroad with KAFTANTV 7 p.m. news.
Good to have you join us on KAFTAN News at 7.
Nigerians are living in abject 5%. Our young people repurpose the Harmony Symphony.
It's good to have you join us on KAFTANTV News.
Welcome back. You're still on to the Polity, coming to you live from the Abuja studio of KAFTAN Television. By the way, KAFTAN Television stands for King Adebayo Film and Theatre Arts Network TV. That's very important, and I encourage you to tell your neighbor what it means. So it's not kaftan, the dress that you wear. It's King Adebayo Film and Theatre Arts Network TV. Yeah, you got it. Give yourself a thumbs up. Now, so let's go ahead. We're talking this afternoon about the poor implementation of our budgets, national budgets. And of course, I mean, this it really trickles down. If you have poor performance at the national level, of course, it's happening in all the subnational levels. And so it's not a funny story because it's really holding us back from experiencing development. And so this is something that we need to take very seriously and see what we can do about it. And so the phone line is open, and it's 080-299-38365. It's on the screen, by the way. And let's do this together. Now, what can we do to ensure that this story changes? Number one, if people will constantly fail to do their duties, can we have some kind of sanction? Can we have people penalized for not submitting their budget figures in good time? Yes, because like they said, people will not do what you expect them to do. They will only do what you inspect them to do or what you enforce. Now, so if that is so, can we begin to put maybe laws in place, regulations in place, guidelines in place in ministries, in MDAs, to ensure that the right thing is done, so that these figures, this budget proposal gets to the National Assembly at the worst case by October. And then we can now plead with the National Assembly to please help us within the 2 months or 2.5 months, depending on when it gets to them in October, to ensure that whatever it takes, whatever perusal, whatever scrutiny, whatever people need to be called in, if they need to consult, call in their consultants, if they need to, whatever it is, all the brainstorming that is required, can be managed within those 2 months or 2.5 months, and our budget is ready by the end of December. We need to really do something about that. So can we put laws in place that if you fail to meet your own timeline of the job, because we do know that this involves almost everybody along the value chain, this person has to bring it to the point where some other person has to take over, and it's such a chain work. But at the same time, if we have schedules and we have timelines and these are enforced, we can definitely, because if other countries do it, why can't we do it? What's so special about meeting deadlines? So we need to really look at this very seriously and see whether we can put guidelines in place, put penalties in place, so people know that when you do not do what you're expected to do within the approved timeline, there is a penalty, there's a repercussion, and they'll then be challenged to do the right thing. I think that's one. That's one area that we need to really do something about, and do it quickly, because this time, at a time like this in 2020-25, we shouldn't be talking about poor performance of our budgets, considering especially that our situation is dire. I mean, where we have a lack of infrastructure that is so loud. I mean, it's unfortunate. And so we can't be sleeping on the job at a time like this. So that we need to do. Now, let's talk about revenue generation. I hope that the National Assembly, I do know that they are consulting with the executive and holding different kinds of meetings right now in order to be able to sort out the areas of differences and the gray areas as it concerns the tax reform bill. So I hope that this discussions can be fast-tracked so that we can have a proper flow of revenue. I hope that that will really help us to be able to do the kind of budgets that Dr. Aliyu Ilias was alluding to. I also think that we need to do a lot more, but of course you can't do anything in a vacuum. All things have to connect together. You have to, like the lawyers would say, you can't put something on nothing. And so, I mean, if you are making budgets and you are putting huge expenditures, there must be a way by which they relate to the revenues or the anticipated revenues, and so you can't just put bogus figures together that you do not know how it's going to be supported, how it's going to be funded. So this is an area also requiring a whole lot of work and seriousness. Now let's talk about politics of accommodation. I don't quite see, like I was saying to my guest a while ago, I don't quite see how this affects the implementation once it is approved. So the problem will be with the approval. It will then mean that the appropriation work itself has not been properly done, if there are problems from there. Because once you make it a law, it's passed into law, then you cannot now, I mean, it just has to be implemented. As far as the average Nigerian on the street is concerned, that it's we expect delivery of democratic dividends, or dividends of democracy. So this also, I do not think should be a problem. If it's a problem, it's not of the implementation, it's of the planning, it's of the approval from the National Assembly, and of course that's within the play, within the field of the National Assembly to tackle. So I mean, the job is cut out. If you have a budget to pass, you have the knife. You should do the needful. You should do that which is allowed by law, by the Constitution, and that benefits the people. I think it's as simple as that. You cannot just load stuff onto the budget that you know are unaccomplishable. It's not simply possible. There are some things that, except we want to make the budget laughable, we want to make a mockery of ourselves. Beyond that, the needful can be done, the right thing can be done. And I encourage whoever is involved, the National Assembly in this case, to please take this much more seriously. It's a plea. We can't force you, but of course, if the job is done and is done well, it all goes to your credit. So that has been identified as a challenge, and I'm saying that we can overcome that also. Now let's talk about, we've talked about the oversight function of the National Assembly. Yeah, we've talked about the oversight function of the National Assembly, and I do not think I want to add anything more so it doesn't become like an overkill. So let's prioritize our budget. It's no use making a budget just for the sake of making a budget. I mean, when a budget is made and it's expected that certain things will be delivered, I mean, we should begin to see those things in a question of a few months. And so, I mean, how does it really play out? While we are trying to pass the 2025 budget, a budget of 2024 is still running, and I hear is going to run till June. So clearly, what we are also preparing right now is that 2025 on will also overflow into 2026. We must determine to put an end to these overlapping budgets so that we can even have a proper accountability. We can look at, okay, in 2024, this was the budget and this was what was achieved, and what was achieved is something that we all can be proud of. Of course, we do know that around the world, it might be difficult to achieve 100% of capital projects. But at the same time, who says that we cannot achieve 75% or 80%? So if we get 80%, that's an A. So I think that Nigerians also would want that kind of A performance. We do know that due to human frailties, weaknesses, inadequacies, all kinds of factors, not foreseen, unforeseen factors, all kinds of climatic conditions, anything like what's happening in America right now, where you've had wildfires for so many. Nobody could have foreseen that. So, barring that, we should be able to give the best budget performance to this nation. That's the whole essence of what we have come to talk about this afternoon, and that's what Dr. Aliyu Ilias was trying to put on the table, save for the uncooperative attitude of the network. So if you're still there, we would like to have you call in on 080-299-38365 so we can get your own perspective and your own proposed solution to this national challenge that has become it's become second history. It's unfortunate over the years. So let's see if my friends will call in. It definitely must be a real network challenge. Maybe that's why also my guest has been finding it difficult to remain online. This is very unusual not to have callers call in, particularly on a topic that is as touching as this. So, all right, I got the first person this afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
You're welcome.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm 17.
All right.
I'm Abakar from Niger State.
All right then. Go on.
Yes. So as regard to the poor budget implementation that you are right now discussing about,
Yeah.
the problem we are facing in our country, our leaders are not a good hearing. Are you hearing me, man?
Clearly, yeah.
All right. So look at what happened just recently. If an agency could present a budget and they could not come out and present it, where are we heading to?
Okay, if they will present a budget and do not come to defend it, you mean?
Yes. Yes. So where are we heading to?
All right.
So at state level or at federal level, if assuming we have a transparency government, by the end of 2024, the national or sub-national, they will boldly come out and address the nation or address our citizens, how they spend their 2024 budget from A to Z. But as a result of the poor management that we're facing in our country, is what result of all this.
All right. Thank you so much, Abubakar.
These are the challenges that we're facing, yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, Abubakar just made his point that what we should have at the end of the year is a feedback system where both the national, the government at the center and the subnationals come to give us a feedback as to what has been done with the budget up to the end of the year. So that's his take. And what's your own take? What's your own take? We await your call. I do know that the government, in a way, when you do a new budget, you also provide comparative figures. That is, you put the figures of the previous year. So somehow that also informs where you are coming from. So in a way, that's some measure of a feedback. But I think I understand what Abubakar is saying, that there should be a clear address or communication from the executive saying, well, this is what we have been able to achieve, even though this is what we set out to achieve, and this is the gap that we have. You know, the National Assembly itself, felt so worried and said, how do you have 100% implementation of recurrent expenditure, whereas you have only 25% implementation of the capital budget? So in a way, it looks as if services not rendered, or I don't know how to put it, like services not rendered are being paid for in terms of the recurrent component. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, because if those overheads were put in place to support the system in achieving those capital projects, then how do you pay out the entire recurrent figures, whereas only 25%, only a quarter of the capital projects is achieved? It's lamentable, it's worrisome, but we can't continue just to worry and lament. We must take action to change this narrative. 080-299-38365, and that will be when I get back from this break.
In the beginning, God created a beautiful world.
3, 2, 1. Action.
And that's why, at KAFTAN Television,
we imagine a beautiful world.
We are not just bragging.
we blaze the trail in broadcasting. And it is about you.
At KAFTANTV, broadcasting is not just about information, education, and entertainment.
It's an aggregation of all you need to know in Nigeria
and around the world to create signal.
At KAFTAN Television, we have all it takes to be on top in broadcasting.
Our mission is simple: to project Africa in a truthful yet positive manner.
Wait, we're coming to you in style.
Here we are, starting from September.
Look at what the facts are.
And as you say on KAFTAN TV, imagine a beautiful world.
Welcome back, viewers. You are on to the Polity, coming to you live from the Abuja studio of KAFTAN Television, and we're talking about the poor performance of the national budget and what we can do about it. What are the reasons for it? What are the factors responsible for this weakness? And what can be done to overcome the weakness? That's what we've been talking about for about an hour right now. And my guest has been Dr. Aliyu Ilias, even though he connected via Zoom. And the network has been quite epileptic, so much so that we currently don't have him, and we might need to conclude the program without him. And I look forward to having you join as you call in via the phone line on 080-299-38-365. Now, we've talked about putting in place some kind of regulation or guideline and corresponding penalty when people fail to do their duties to ensure that the budget estimates are submitted in good time. Now, what can be done to checkmate? Is it checkmate now? What can be done to ensure that the National Assembly does its job of oversight? And if it fails to do its job of oversight, what are the consequences? What are the penalties that can be put on the respective committees for failing to do that duty? Shouldn't we be talking in that direction? Yes, because the people who designed the Constitution that way to ensure that there is some oversight couldn't have been foolish. They thought of it, and it was part of the checks and balances system of democracy. Now look, when these proposals are given, there should be some people who go back there to ensure that what was planned is brought to the realm of execution, the realm of implementation. Because, I mean, potential is not enough. Plan is not enough. A plan that does not graduate, that does not move from planning stage to execution stage to implementation stage is at best lame. So of what use are plans? If we just keep planning and writing down plans and putting budgets together and there is no implementation, of what use it will be such a charade? So these are the points. So just in case you want to join me, the number with which to get across is on the screen, and I can really talk to you from here. It's 08029938365. So let's do this together, even as we get on the home run right now. With all this should be over in less than 20 minutes. So what's your take? What are you saying about this very important matter? Have your say now, so that you would have acquitted yourself of your franchise. You have a franchise to be able to speak concerning what's happening around you. Yes, there's freedom of speech, so long as you're not breaking any laws, so long as you're not in breach of any provisions of the law. So, I mean, get on your phone, get through to me. Let's share together. This is the time, rather than just talk by the side, by the corners, or just in the beer parlor. Let's put it on the national. Let's be part of the national fray. Let's put these suggestions forward for the powers that be to have enough materials to work with, and so that they also know that you are interested in getting good governance. So now, as we begin to round up very shortly, I'm sure that we all agree that the poor performance of the national budget is a serious problem that requires attention, that requires correction, that requires solution, and that this is not something that we have to dilly-dally about or drag our feet about. This is something that's as important as, I mean, as urgent as if it had been done 10 years ago or even 50 years ago. So this is not a time to sit back and just sit down look. This is not a time for sit down look. So wherever you are, even if you're unable to get across today, I mean, say something, contribute something, do an article, be concerned with your nation's progress. That's the only way by which you prove yourself a responsible citizen. It's no use just complaining. What is your own recommendation? What is your own proposal? How do we get out of the myriad of problems that we have as a nation? If we do not get your input, if we do not get the input of all Nigerians, how do we move forward? Yeah, so what are you saying? Do you agree that people should be given timelines in terms of the time they come up with their budget estimates and the time it is submitted, to right from the bottom to the top till the point where the president presents it at the National Assembly? Should people be made to abide by timelines, and failing which there will be a punitive action? That's the only way it seems to me. So do you agree? I'm sure there are many people who agree, but the network is really making this difficult. So very shortly, we will bring this show to a close, probably in another 5 minutes or thereabouts. So you need to make your own contribution to this show. So just call right now on 08029938365, and we will listen to you. The world wants to listen to that your golden suggestion. So while that is on, National Assembly, thank you for even raising the alarm about a week ago. But it's not sufficient to just raise an alarm, especially when part of the problem is your own, if you like, dereliction of your own part, your own role, your own duty. Because clearly, so many Nigerians are saying, if we had effective monitoring, if we had effective oversight, we probably will not be in this laughable situation where you only have done 25%, even with the affliction of over 10 or 11 months of the year. Dear National Assembly, dear legislators, dear representatives, your role is clearly cut out constitutionally, and we would really appreciate. Nigerians are saying, can you please double up on that particular role so that we don't lament after the event. We don't lament. I mean, what's that proverb now? It says medicine after death. It's really like medicine after death. I mean, why would we wait till the end of the year before we begin to talk about some of these things? Why can't we hold these MDs accountable to the projects that they themselves proposed and within certain timelines, and say, okay, you told us that from this first quarter, this and this will be ready. Why is it not ready now? Oh, they say revenue, I mean, money was not released. Good. So the National Assembly can take it up again with the arm of government that is involved in making those releases and so on and so forth. So National Assembly, your role is quite paramount in all of this. And we encourage you to take your prideful, rightful place in the scheme of things to turn around this situation. I guess we would need to go at this point so that we don't just keep saying the same thing over and over again. So, except if you say that you're about to call on 08029938365. Barring that, we might just make this the size of the program today. And I still am very grateful to Dr. Aliyu Ilias for coming on the show via Zoom, though. And I really want to say thank you to the production team here, to every one of you for even making the Zoom connection possible in the first instance, and for all the support back here. Thank you so very much. And I want to say thank you to Abubakar, who called from Niger State, saying his own mind, his own opinion about the issue being discussed. I want to say thank you to the millions of viewers around this country and beyond who have taken time out to watch once again, and knowing full well that KAFTAN TV is where to be and the station to beat. Tell your neighbor that the station to beat right now is KAFTAN TV. And I'd like to remind you that tomorrow's another day, and the Polity will be coming same time on this same station, KAFTAN Television, and will be coming live at the same time, 2 p.m., and most likely be hosted by Macaulay Hunohashi. Please stay tuned, and you can be sure of the same quality and rich content that will bring to you all the time. Thank you very much, and this is where I sign out.